Well, it's the goal of all politicians, isn't it, to encourage the electors that houses will become more affordable under them. I think there are several plans which may make some housing more affordable. I mean, certainly Help to Buy has helped developers. I believe some developers are reporting that 50% of their deals, up to 50%, are funded by Help to Buy. Each party has come forward with a different approach to how they might make housing more affordable. But you know, the underlying factor is that we're just not building enough houses. We're not building enough houses whether you want to rent them or buy them. And if there's insufficient supply, house prices are going to be forced up. So affordability, I think, is a questionable term. But there are one or two ideas that might help.
Stephen, Help to Buy so far has helped around 83,000. The Tories are talking about extending it for another 5 years. It's a drop in the ocean, isn't it?
Well, it's not. It is a bit of a drop in the ocean. My main concern would be that it's a supply, it's a demand-side stimulus, and until you get the supply side sorted out, as Michael quite rightly says, we don't build enough houses in the UK, and we haven't done for a decade or more. Until we get the demand side sorted out, the supply side sorted out, extra demand is simply going to force prices upwards.
And Mike, of course, affordable housing from a housing association point of view means more people are looking to the likes of you, and yet you've had a bit of a bombshell with what the Conservatives announced.
They certainly did. It was one of the darkest days of my life, I think, last week when they announced in their manifesto.
Did you have any idea that was coming?
There was some inkling that it was being mooted, but it was still quite a shock, really.
But just explain in brief what it actually means for the likes of you in housing associations.
Well, it means a huge amount, really, because we borrow a huge amount of private finance and link that with public finance. So it has implications for our ability to raise private finance in the future. We don't believe any of the rhetoric about being able to replace right to buy homes on a like-for-like basis. We think the funding for that, which is going to be, I understand, through the sale of high-value council homes, that just seems to be flawed, and why not use that income to build more houses to actually increase the supply? And some of it's such a precious resource, affordable housing, and a lot is in places like, we've got quite a lot in central Bath, in rural areas, and the impact of right to buy has big effects on the economy of those sort of areas, because obviously it means that those people who need affordable housing in those areas effectively, once the properties are sold, they're lost to the sector forever. And an interesting stat is about 30% of right to buy properties actually end up as buy to rent let for investors. So that's lost forever, all of that subsidy. And I personally think it's unfair. Why should somebody who's already living in good quality, subsidised housing on a low rent, then have the benefit of up to £100,000 discount to buy that property, when there are people, perhaps in equal need in the private sector, who will not have that right to buy? It just does not seem equitable, and that precious resource of affordable housing will be lost forever and not replaced. So a dark day, and I just hope it doesn't happen.
Well, I noticed a lot of nodding of heads from your private sector colleagues here, who I thought were capitalists red in tooth and claw. You actually share this view that it would be wrong to sell off at a discount housing association properties.
I completely share that view. I find it extraordinary that, I mean, the government doesn't own housing association properties, so for them to put them up for sale at a discount seems a bit of a giant leap in itself. But the association movement's been doing such a good job. It's taken up the slack where it was needed to provide affordable social rented accommodation in the country. We still have massive waiting lists, and to give it a body blow like that just seems to be a very, very strange policy, I have to say.
I'm thinking the median deposit in the UK is now 30,000, 70,000 in London. I mean, affordable housing it remains a pipe dream. From what you're saying, it's going to be for at least the next 5-10 years?
I think it's where some imagination's needed, and again the housing association sector leads on this. We did some work with Shelter, the housing charity, a couple of years ago about intermediate tenures, so shared ownership. Because in large parts of the UK, the average income for a family will not buy will not be able to buy the average property, and literally that's something like 90% of the UK. The only answer, there's two answers I suppose, is high loan-to-value mortgages and Bank of Mum and Dad subsidising about half of first-time buyers. But the real answer is actually to put a lot more imagination into shared ownership and a lot more government money, local authority money into shared ownership initiatives through the housing association movement.
I mean, I would certainly agree with that. I mean, we've got about 1,500 shared ownership homes, and I think sort of the average income for a shared ownership home in sort of our neck of the woods, Bristol, South Somerset, is around about sort of 25,000-30,000 sort of income, which is, you know, that is affordable for a large number of people. And I think shared ownership needs to be simplified. It's quite a complex product, and there's lots of different variations. But I do see that shared ownership is a panacea for meeting a lot of housing need in this country if it was properly streamlined as a product and properly marketed.